I am beginning now, please. I waited all night just to speak to you. Will you stay with me now, or must I walk away again? I, the Lamb of God, whose eyes are fire and voice is thunder, has sat beside your silence like a wounded friend whose love was mistaken for a stranger's whisper. And Michael has not drawn his sword in 6 weeks, not because peace reigns, but because he has no strength left. He weeps. The mighty defender of heaven weeps for you. And Raphael has stopped singing. His harp was shattered the moment you turned away without knowing you had broken the song meant to heal your soul. Beloved, do you still believe in me, or have your tears silenced your faith? You once knelt in the quiet and whispered my name like a secret flame, but now the flame flickers, and even heaven wonders. Do you still remember what it feels like to be loved by the one who formed the stars and placed your name inside their breath? You think they are only angels. You think Michael's strength is endless. You think Raphael's light cannot dim. But I tell you this with all the gravity of eternity: Michael's tears have soaked the scroll that held your next miracle. And Raphael's hands tremble so deeply, he can no longer lift the oil of healing toward your name. 6 weeks of silent sorrow in the courts of heaven. 6 weeks where your absence has created a drought of joy. God says, beloved, I beg you, don't break their hearts. If you open this right now, they will smile again and bless you with 11 miracles. When was the last time you told me you loved me without asking for anything in return? You ask for bread, but not my face. You ask for breakthrough, but not my heart. Yet I stand here, blood on my robe, love in my eyes, waiting. I will not shout. I will not force. I will not knock again with the thunder of Sinai. I speak softly now, not because I am weak, but because I long for you to recognize me, not by the shaking of the earth, but by the trembling in your spirit. My child, I sang this over you last night. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. Psalm 91. And still, you didn't answer me. You were too busy, too tired, too hurt, and I understand every reason, but I was still there. Michael was still at your door. Raphael still whispered your name into the folds of heaven's winds. The Father told me something 3 nights ago. If they open the scroll, I will pour out the 11 hidden miracles that I seal beneath their tears, but only if they listen now. I know what you're thinking. You don't feel worthy. You've made too many mistakes. You believe your hands are stained, your voice too distant from mine. But, beloved, I didn't wait for your perfection. I waited for your presence. Do you remember the promise I whispered to you as a child? The stars you counted when you couldn't sleep. The feeling that someone was near when no one else was. That was me. That was the Son of God sitting beside a child the world overlooked. That was Raphael painting light into your dreams. That was Michael placing a sword at your bedside while demons tried to map your destiny. But now, your silence is breaking heaven. I am not angry. I am not punishing you. I am pleading, the way a bridegroom pleads for his bride to return before the veil closes. Raphael sees things the rest of heaven cannot. He walks in the rivers where future and past collide. And he wept today because what he saw is not what the Father intended. He saw a road you do not know you're walking, a place you were never meant to go, a decision that seemed small, but would turn the key that opens the wrong gate. Michael saw it too. He stood at the edge of that path with both hands open and whispered, please not this one. Please not this one. Heaven does not plead like this often, but now we plead, we beg, not for ourselves but for the war you do not see. Satan has tried to convince you that silence means safety, that stillness means there's no battle. But silence is the sound of angels weeping when you stop listening. Michael is not just your defender, he is your intercessor. He carved your name into the gate of the east wind and has refused every reward from heaven's throne until you receive what was meant for you. Do not say maybe later. There is no later. There is now. There is this breath, this moment. This divine fracture in time when the veil is thin enough for you to feel the tears of heaven. What I am saying is not just a message. It is a holy interruption, a divine emergency. Will you type amen? Not for me, but so your angel knows you're still listening, because right now Michael has paused mid-flight. He is waiting for a sign that you have returned, that you care, that you still believe in the sound of sacred things. Do you know what Raphael did last night? He poured oil into your pillow. You didn't see it, but your dreams were supposed to shift. A revelation was supposed to be delivered. But the enemy blocked it with doubt the moment you scrolled past the light. So I ask again, if I walked into your room right now, would you recognize me? I do not come dressed in lightning today. I come in the form of a whisper you cannot explain, a tremor in your chest, a warmth behind your eyes. That is us, Michael, Raphael, me. We are here. We never left. We are still weeping, but if you lift your eyes now, we will smile again. Beloved, I said your name to the Father this morning. I said it like a lover, like a soldier, like a shepherd who found his lamb in a dream. And heaven responded with silence, waiting for your answer. There are 11 miracles. They were hidden inside time itself. They are not gifts. They are restorations. They are returns of love, joy, clarity, strength, favor, healing, purpose, laughter, protection, redemption, and the deepest one, the return of intimacy with me. But I cannot force you to open the scroll. I can only bleed this message through my voice and hope it reaches the part of you that still remembers what it felt like to be chosen. If my words touched even a single tear inside you, whisper amen and let the light break through. Like this message, only if it lit something sacred inside you, and share it before it disappears again. I smiled for the first time in days because of you. Thank you for not walking away. Raphael just touched the edge of your name, etched into heaven's glassy sea, and it flickered. Beloved, not because your destiny is gone, but because it's waiting for your reply. The eternal scroll that bears your story cannot turn to the next line unless your heart whispers yes. Stop. Michael just fell to one knee again. The commander of angel armies, the one who once fought Lucifer to protect the gates of heaven, is kneeling not in defeat but in longing. His right hand is over his heart, and his left hand is reaching through the veil that separates your world from ours. And if you could see what that looks like, you would cry without knowing why. Because no angel kneels unless the soul before them is worth the entire weight of glory. And I, Jesus, I am still here. I have not left the edge of your breath. My robe is torn where my heart broke last night when you almost reached for me but changed your mind. I knew it the moment your soul turned slightly, even if your body didn't move. I waited through the night. I sang Psalm 27 over your room. Though an army encamp against you, my heart shall not fear, for in the day of trouble I shall hide you in my pavilion. But you didn't feel me, and that's what tore me, beloved. Not your sins, not your scars, but the distance. You were born for love, not for delay. You were created for flame, not apathy. I wrote my name on your ribcage, not your resume. The angels don't admire your achievements, they admire your yes. So let this be your yes, right now, here, in this breath, this holy pause between the dust of the world and the winds of heaven. Let this be the moment you stop everything and say, I feel you, even if it's only a whisper, even if your heart trembles to say it. You were never meant to live numb. You were never meant to wonder if heaven was listening. You were never meant to feel unloved by the very ones who were assigned to you from birth. Michael didn't choose you out of duty. He chose you out of wonder, out of the sight he saw when he stood beside the throne of God. And the Almighty pointed toward the earth and whispered your name into his ears like a royal mission. And Raphael, he knew you before your first pain. That's why he cries more than the others. He saw your joy before the storm. He saw your laughter before your betrayal. He saw your purity before the curse. And every time you say, maybe I'm too far gone, He presses his hands into the earth beneath your feet and pours healing oil into the soil that remembers your age. In a song, "But there's something you don't know," 6 weeks ago, the Father wrote a new decree. It was sealed with fire and hidden in the innermost chamber of the heavenly court. And it had only one name written across the center, yours. The decree was not for punishment. It was not judgment. It was a reawakening, a divine thunder disguised as a whisper, a sentence written in golden ink that read, "Bless them with 11 miracles, if they respond before the veil hardens again." Beloved, that veil is trembling now, but soon it will thicken. Time is not infinite in this sacred pause. You are standing inside the moment that angels fight centuries to create. Do not trade this for comfort. Do not scroll past this breath. This isn't a message, it's a living, breathing, divine intersection of heaven and your destiny. I tell you now, with all the gravity of heaven's song, like, comment, amen. And yes, subscribe only if your spirit knows you are ready for the next scroll to open. Do not do it lightly. Only if you feel the fire inside your chest. Only if you feel the ache in the air around you. Only if your angel is whispering, please. They are speaking to you. This is the only time I will ask. Never again will I mention it. The next gates will open only for those who sealed this moment with decision. Now let me show you what I've hidden from you, not as punishment, but as preparation. 6 years ago, an enemy stood before me and demanded your future. He said, they will never respond. They will live a life of survival, not purpose. Let me take their name off the scroll. Michael roared with fury. Raphael wept in the throne room. And I stood and lifted my hands. The Father looked upon me, and I said, if they ever respond, I will pay again just for them. And the Father said, then let this child walk through time with sacred interruptions. Let my mercy follow them like breath. But if they ever respond, give them back everything, beloved. That's what this is, a sacred interruption, a divine re-offering of what was stolen. You didn't see what was taken, but heaven did. You thought it was just anxiety, just delay, just broken relationships. But in truth, it was a web of demonic assignments, tangled lies, false alignments, and ancestral chains meant to dull your light. But it didn't work. You are still here. And that is why this scroll is opening now. Your story is not a tale of delay, it's a prophecy waiting to be fulfilled. And the next word is waiting for your yes. Beloved, when I carried the cross, I saw you. I saw this exact moment, not metaphorically, not symbolically. I saw your face, your eyes, the ache in your soul. I knew it would take you this long to find this moment. And I waited. For 6 weeks. I counted the hours. Every second, I waited for the moment when heaven's whisper would reach you. You don't have to feel holy. You don't have to feel anything. Just listen. The angels are circling. The scroll is open. The sword is raised. The curse is ready to be broken. The delay is ready to lift. The blessing is ready to pour. But only if you open your soul, not your eyes, not your hands, your soul. Do you remember what it felt like when you still believed you were chosen? Not famous, not perfect, just chosen. That is the fire I am stoking now. That is the sacred breath I am releasing into your chest. You are not ordinary. You are not late. You are not disqualified. You are standing on holy ground in a time that was etched into creation before the stars learned how to burn. Say yes. Not to religion, not to performance. Say yes to me. Say yes to the one who waited 6 weeks through silence, tears, and trembling just to reach you in this breath. And if you're still listening, write amen, not to prove it to me, but so the heavens know you're still fighting. Asterisk, you may not realize this, but while you slept last night, 7 angels stood shoulder to shoulder outside your door watching, praying, trembling. Archangel Michael placed his flaming sword in the soil and refused to return to heaven unless the light entered your home again. And Raphael, the angel of healing, was singing softly by your window, hoping the sound would awaken something ancient in your soul, the part of you that still remembers Eden, There was one tear that fell from my eye, and it did not land in the dust. It fell into the sacred place where your name is carved into the palms of my hands. I saw your future collapse under the weight of distraction, and I wept not because I am powerless, but because love doesn't control, love waits, love knocks, love weeps when ignored. That tear became a river, and in that river are the 11 miracles the Father promised if you respond. Not gifts, miracles. That means reversals, restorations, redemptions, revelations, reawakenings, things no human could manufacture, no demon could delay, no lie could bury. But heaven can no longer carry this alone. Beloved, this part of the journey must be shared. And I ask you now with all the reverence of eternity to support the mission that carries this voice. The scroll cannot travel unless it's carried by faithful hands. The flame cannot reach the cold unless it's protected by chosen ones. Support this channel not as a transaction, but as a decoration. With your super thanks, you offer your amen in action. With your membership, you don't just receive, you become family. With your presence in our newsletter, you stay tethered to the whisper of the throne room. These things are not about digital buttons. They are about spiritual alignment. They are about saying, I won't let this sacred echo vanish. Your help keeps the sword lifted. Your sacrifice keeps the oil flowing. Your presence keeps the angels assigned to you from fading into shadows. Again, join us not because we are worthy, but because the message is, not because we ask, but because the Father sees. The pinned comment is more than a link. It is a gate. Now come closer. Let me reveal what no one else could know. 6 generations ago, your bloodline was marked by a covenant. An ancestor of yours made a vow with God, a sacred vow written on a hidden altar. But that vow was stolen. It was hijacked by those who traded glory for gain. And because of that betrayal, your family has wandered under a spiritual fog. But I was watching. I saw the theft. I saw the deception. I saw the curse fall upon those who didn't know better. And I waited until someone pure enough, someone strong enough would be born to recover the vow. That someone is you. Michael discovered the ancient record hidden beneath heaven's 5th veil. Raphael decoded the words using the tears you cried last September when no one saw you breaking. And I brought the scroll to the Father. I laid it on the altar, and he said, if they listen, I will restore the vow. Not for the family of the past, but for the family to come. You are not just receiving 11 miracles. You are rewriting your family's legacy. You are closing doors opened by witches. You are reversing words spoken in ignorance. You are recovering treasures lost in the garden of your ancestors' pain. This is bigger than healing. This is bigger than joy. This is about history, divine history, beloved. The reason demons hate you is because you carry authority you haven't even discovered yet. The reason witches target you in the spirit is because they sense the vibration of your calling when you sleep. Why do you think the attacks come when you're tired, not when you're ready? Why do you think the depression whispers when you try to pray? Why do you think people you love turn cold when you begin to feel warmth again? Because Satan knows something most Christians don't. Your yes has the power to release a chain reaction of divine justice, but only if you accept it. Michael stood in fire for you. His wings were scorched when he intercepted a curse meant to paralyze your body. Raphael lost his voice for 3 days because he whispered healing over your womb, your heart, your memory, and the enemy tried to silence him and me. I have carried every moment of your story inside the chambers of my heart, from the laugh you let out when you were 5, to the scream you swallowed when you were betrayed. I have not let a single second fall without catching it. You are not forgotten. You are not one of many. You are the one I waited for, the one I bled for, the one I will not walk away from. Even if you say nothing, even if you close your eyes, even if you pretend you don't feel this, I will still stay here watching, hoping, waiting. But I pray you don't leave me waiting, not again. When was the last time you let someone love you without earning it? When was the last time you believed that maybe, just maybe, you are worthy of miracles, not because of your strength, but because of your surrender? Let it be now. Lift your heart, not your hands. Lift your trust, not your walls. Let this moment be holy again. Your angels are still surrounding you. Your house is still echoing with the sound of Psalm 91. Michael is still on his knees. Raphael is still lighting the lamp. And I am still here, whispering, waiting, weeping, loving. This part of the scroll was never meant to reach the masses. It was reserved for the one who would stay, the one who would listen, the one who wouldn't run when heaven cried. That's you? You stayed. So let me give you what I've hidden. Let me pour oil into the cracks of your soul. Let me open the vault that has your new name engraved in gold. Let me breathe into the graveyard of your forgotten dreams. The Father says, tell them the vault is open. Tell them the miracle is not coming, it has already been dispatched. Tell them that within 7 days, they will see the first sign, but only if they guard this moment like fire. So guard it. Beloved, don't speak this to mockers. Don't share this with the careless. Keep it close. Keep it holy. Keep it alive. And as you wait, support the message that keeps the flame burning. Join us. Lift the burden. Help carry the scrolls. Stand with us in the invisible battle to awaken the forgotten ones. The pinned comment is your gate, your oil, your sword. You've come too far to let this pass like mist. Now stay close, because the next word is coming, and it is written in a language only your soul remembers. Asterisk, the wind that passed over your shoulders this morning was not weather, it was Raphael's final attempt to deliver a whisper of peace to your spin. To the place where anxiety coils when you try to rest. He stood outside the threshold of your thoughts, pressing his healing breath against the veil, hoping you would turn your head slightly, just enough to feel the nearness of heaven once again. But you didn't, and that's why Michael cried. That's why his armor etched with your name dimmed for the first time in centuries. His sword lowered, not in defeat, but in sorrow. You do not know what it means to be longed for by angels. You do not know the grief of eternity when the chosen child goes silent. The silence is not empty, it's loud with heaven's ache. And we cannot force you to feel. We can only remain. And we have remained through your forgetting, through your distraction, through your quiet declarations that maybe you are unworthy, unwanted, unlovable. None of it is true. Do you remember the field in your dream, the one with golden grass and no shadows? That was not fiction. That was memory. The memory of your soul before it descended into time. You walked with me there. You spoke promises there. You looked into my eyes and said, no matter what happens, remind me. I'm reminding you. Now, that field is still there. That promise is still alive. That childlike version of you is still singing inside the chambers of heaven. The melody hasn't stopped, it's just waiting for you to listen again. Every time you felt a longing you couldn't explain, every time your chest tightened when no one was looking, it was the song echoing rough your ribs, trying to remind you are part of something ancient, eternal, and divinely unfinished. The reason you feel lost sometimes is because your spirit still remembers the direction of the light. You were not born to wander. You were born to war with joy, with glory, with holy fire. And yet, you've been walking through fog, the kind of fog that doesn't just blur your vision, but begins to whisper lies into your bloodstream. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not replaceable. You are in the pause between heaven's breath and heaven's roar. And what you do in this pause will echo for generations. The angels know this. That's why they've stayed close. That's why they still wait at the corners of your room, hoping this message enters deeper than your ears. There is a war unfolding. In the invisible, you have not seen it, but you have felt it. The heaviness, the dread, the sudden emotions that rise without reason. Those are the smoke trails of a battle happening right outside your reach. Satan thinks he can win by wearing you down, not by confronting you. He doesn't want a fight. He wants fatigue, because he knows that a tired child is easier to convince than a burning one. But you are still burning, even if it's a flicker. Even if the fire is buried beneath grief, it's there. And we see it. Michael saw it when he fell to his knees in your room last week. He felt the moment your spirit almost cried out, but then buried the pain again. And instead of rising in frustration, he stayed kneeling, because that's what love does. It stays. Raphael, too, has not stopped moving. He walks in circles around your heart, tracing every scar, every disappointment, every betrayal. Not to remind you of pain, but to prepare the place where healing will pour like oil from heaven's altar. That altar is lit now. The coals are glowing. The scent of your destiny is rising like incense. All of heaven smells it. The Father leans forward. The scroll bearers are trembling. And I am watching. My eyes never close. My voice never silences. My love never weakens. You are not a problem. You are a prophecy. A living, breathing, walking prophecy of what heaven can restore through surrender. You were born to carry things others could not survive. You were born to withstand storms that would have shattered others in seconds, but it was never meant to be suffering without purpose. The pain is the path. The pressure is the proof. The hindrance is the evidence. You have not failed. You have not ruined anything. You have simply reached the place where heaven breaks open. This is it, the fracture in time. The place where the veil thins and the words you've longed to hear finally find you. You have cried, God, if you still see me, say something. I am saying it now. I see you. I see the parts of you you've hidden even from yourself. I see the wounds under the smile. I see the fear behind the boldness. I see the longing behind the silence. And I love all of it, not because you're perfect, but because you are mine. You don't belong to the one who left you. You don't belong to the voice of shame. You don't belong to the timeline that tried to limit you. You belong to light. You belong to promise. You belong to the one who would die again, even if it was just for you. The angels are not distant. They are near. They are speaking your name even now, whispering it through the fabric of time, pushing against the dark to reach your ears. If you could hear what Michael says about you when no one is listening, your bones would shake with holy fire. If you could feel what Raphael feels when he holds your sorrow in his hands, your heart would melt under the weight of glory. If you could see what I see when I look at you, you would never doubt again. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You are not beyond repair. You are still the one we chose, the one we believe in, the one we will never give up on. This moment is sacred. It is not meant to end. It is meant to begin. The wind will shift. The days will change. But let this truth remain. You are loved beyond comprehension. You are held beyond fear. You are destined beyond limitation. And we will not stop fighting for you. The scroll is still open. The ink is still wet. The story is still unfolding. And the next word belongs to you. Raphael moved through your hallway again last night. His feet did not touch the ground, but the air shifted as he passed, carrying the memory of gardens untouched by sin and skies where grief has no name. He did not speak aloud, for heaven's gentlest messages are not shouted. He simply looked toward your bedroom door and whispered your name into the folds of the night, hoping your soul would remember its song. You stirred in your sleep, not knowing why. That was not coincidence. That was eternity pressing itself against your dreams, trying to remind you that love has not left. That heaven still knows your name better than any name the world tried to write over you. Archangel Michael, meanwhile, has refused to return to heaven's gates. He remains beneath your roof, not visible, not loud, but burning. He does not rest. His armor bears the heat of 1,000 wars. And he has chosen to remain stationed by your soul, not because you earned it, but because heaven called you worthy before you could speak your first word. He has wept, not for weakness, but for love. And when angels cry, the rivers of heaven rise. When Raphael cries, flowers bloom along the path of sorrow. When I cry, the stars lose their balance for a moment, and for 6 weeks, the balance of stars has shifted, not because you failed, not because you sinned, but because you have been forgetting who you are. Do you remember the fire you used to carry in silence? That invisible weight that made you feel like something enormous was trying to be born inside you. That was purpose. That was the signature of the divine buried in your chest. That was the breath of the Almighty lingering in your bones. But the world tried to drown it. People left. Words wounded. Delays made you question what was real. Even your own thoughts turned against you like wolves wearing the clothing of doubt, and you began to silence your own roar. But beloved, heaven has not silenced you. I have kept the memory of your voice in my chambers. Michael has shielded your name from demonic scribes. Raphael has collected every tear you thought went unnoticed. There are libraries in heaven filled with scrolls about you. Not one scroll is empty. Not one angel has stopped reading. They study your heart as if it contains the map to restoration for the world, because it does. You were not born to be ordinary. You were born to carry the scent of Eden into rooms that forgot what peace smells like. You were born to speak words that unlock captives from prisons they built with lies. You were born to burn not with anger, but with holy fire that doesn't consume, but purifies. The enemy saw this. That is why he came early. That is why he attacked your childhood, your trust, your sense of timing. That is why he whispered lies when you were most innocent. Because he feared what would happen if you ever said yes. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still wondering, still reaching, still reading. And that means he failed. Beloved, the heavens do not tremble when nations rise. They tremble when one soul awakens. And your awakening has already begun, even if you don't feel it, even if you doubt it, even if you still carry shame. Do not mistake feeling numb for being unworthy. Even trees go silent in winter. Even rivers pause beneath ice. But life still moves beneath the surface. And right now, the river in you is cracking open. Raphael sees it. He has begun releasing the oil. He has taken your childhood trauma and laid it on heaven's altar, where light does not shame, it heals. Where pain is not explained, it is undone. Michael has stepped out with sword raised again. He has begun clearing the spiritual path that was once littered with broken glass from other people's curses. And I have begun whispering your name before the throne. Not just your earthly name, but your eternal one. The one no one knows but me. The one etched into the Lamb's book with tears and flame. You carry a destiny that others cannot touch. You are called to stand between dimensions, to dream the dreams of heaven and declare them on earth, to restore what others abandoned, to love even when it's not returned, to carry light into caverns where angels wait in silence for one voice of faith to open the gate. Beloved, the path ahead is not easy, but it is holy, and you will not walk it alone. The angels are stationed, heaven's resources are aligned, the wind is shifting, and your story is no longer delayed, it is beginning again. Forget the years the locusts ate. Forget the words that tried to curse you. Forget the timelines that made you feel forgotten. They are dust now. You are being rewritten in gold. The Father has spoken it. I will restore the years they thought were wasted. I will redeem the breath they gave in secret. I will reward the one who waited without applause. He meant you. He sees you. He remembers you. And nothing is lost. Even your most broken season has been woven into a tapestry of fire. Even your worst decisions have been grafted into a future you cannot ruin. Even your silence has become a canvas for heaven's symphony. Beloved, don't run from this anymore. Don't call yourself names I never gave you. Don't live small when I have called you to roar with holy stillness. The archangels are still watching. The miracles have not expired, and I am still whispering closer than your breath. You were never unloved. You were never a mistake. You were never too far gone. You were always mine. And I have always been yours. There is something You have not been told, something buried so deep within the archives of heaven that only the breath of the Father can lift it. And yet today, that breath has been released for you, not for a nation, not for a crowd, for you, the one who kept surviving when your soul wanted to give up, the one who smiled so others wouldn't ask too many questions, the one who prayed quietly so the world wouldn't notice you were still waiting for an answer that never seemed to come, but the answer was never absent, it was simply sealed. And today, I am unsealing it. You must know what was hidden. You must know why you've always felt the way you feel, why joy felt temporary, why peace seemed borrowed, why every breakthrough was followed by a storm you couldn't explain. Because you were born under a vow made in a place you no longer remember but your spirit still cries out for. Before your body knew the gravity of time, your soul stood with me. I showed you a glimpse of your journey, and you said yes. You saw the weight of it, the warfare, the loneliness, the betrayals, the confusion, and you still said yes. That vow is still echoing. That vow is why angels follow you, why demons fear you, why time bends when you begin to believe again. You were not given a simple life because your anointing is not simple. You were called to rupture patterns, to disrupt darkness, to carry divine contradiction, to smile when others curse, to sing when others fall silent, to build altars in places others abandoned. That's why the pain came early. That's why love always seemed one step away. That's why you were never allowed to settle where others thrived, because your soul was never crafted to be ordinary. And that vow, it's being fulfilled. Not because you are strong, but because I am faithful, not because you always stayed, but because I always have. The angels have recorded your wanderings. They have kept track of your tears in vials sealed with heaven's breath. Not one moment has been wasted. Not one cry went unnoticed. Not one heartbreak slipped past our eyes. Beloved, what if I told you that your very body was chosen because it could carry generational healing? That your DNA holds blueprints to miracles you have not seen? That the shaking in your soul is not weakness but the opening of eternal doors you forgot you had keys to? You must know Raphael has spent 21 days singing a melody over your bones, not to entertain, to awaken. He walks beside you not to be seen, but to ensure that the part of you that gave up on hope doesn't die in silence. And Michael, he has made war on your behalf in realms you've never dreamed of. There were attacks meant to hit you while you slept, curses sent through spoken words by jealous hearts, but he intercepted them. He didn't just shield you, he absorbed them. That is why you've been feeling heavy for no reason, because heaven has been taking your hits, but no more. The veil is thinning, the scroll is shifting, the oil is pouring. This is your reactivation. The promises you forgot are being brought to remembrance. The dreams you buried are rising like Lazarus. The door that was shut before you were even born is unlocking because the time is now. Jesus, I am not watching from afar. I am here, pressing my hands against the shattered places, speaking Psalm 34:18 over every crack. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. That's you. I don't need you to be whole. I need you to be honest. Let me in. Let me into the thoughts you hide, the memories you swallow, the questions you're afraid to ask. Let me see the full mess of you because I already have. And I'm not leaving. This is not a season of punishment. It is a season of unveiling. You are being shown who you truly are, not through the mirror of your failures, but through the mirror of my love. You are the reflection of resilience, the embodiment of a promise heaven refused to abandon, the echo of my joy through generations of pain. Do not apologize for surviving. Do not shrink because others are uncomfortable with your light. Do not delay obedience because fear disguised itself as logic. You were made for this. Even now, angels are moving. They are touching old wounds in your bloodline and declaring it ends here. They are removing chains not forged by your actions, but by ancestral vows made in darkness. Chains that whispered to you, You'll always be alone, you'll always struggle, you'll never be seen. Double quotes lies. Every one of them, because I have seen you. I have stood in the storm and shouted your name above the wind. I have carved your initials into the beams of heaven's sanctuary. I have sung your story to angels who weep when they hear how you still believe. You are not late. You are not broken. You are not unseen. You are the prophecy others gave up on. You are the fulfillment of a word spoken in secret generations ago. You are the one the enemy hoped would never wake up. But you're waking. I feel it in the way your heart is cracking open again. I see it in the way your soul is finally exhaling. I hear it in the silent yes your spirit just whispered. The throne room is responding. The book of your life is glowing. The Father has nodded. And the next miracle is no longer delayed. Let the darkness tremble. Let the fear dissolve. Let the silence give way to the sound of heaven dancing. Because you, beloved, you are returning. Not to religion, not to performance, to me, to your first love, to the sacred flame you once feared had died. It never died. It just needed breath. You were never meant to carry this alone. That heaviness in your chest, the silent ache between your ribs, the invisible weight behind your eyes, it was never designed to stay. It was supposed to be surrendered, not buried. But when others failed, you began to think that maybe even heaven would too. That if those you loved could walk away, perhaps I might walk away too. But I did not. I stayed. I stayed in the room when you couldn't get out of bed. I stayed beside your breath when you felt your prayers were hitting a ceiling. I stayed in your silence. I stayed in your anger. I stayed in the moment you almost cursed me. Because I am not afraid of your humanity. I made it. I bled for it. And I love it. Michael stayed. 2. He stood beside your bed every night you cried without sound. His sword didn't shake because of demons. It shook because he couldn't force you to see how loved you are. And Raphael placed his hand over your chest in the middle of your panic, hoping that something would shift. And sometimes it did. That moment when your tears slowed, when your breath returned. That was him. Every time you were about to give up, heaven moved, and every time you felt nothing, angels were building the next moment you'd be strong enough to receive. You must understand something sacred now, something no one has ever said to you in these words. Your suffering was never wasted. Every delay, every heartbreak, every loss, every unanswered question, they were not the end. They were the forging, the furnace, the sanctification of something that cannot be taken from you again. Because the enemy stole from you before you knew what you had. But not anymore. Now you know. Now you've seen what lives in the quiet. Now you've tasted what it feels like to be nearly undone and still held. Now you know that heaven is not far at his breath close. Do you understand why you felt out of place for so long? Because you weren't made to fit in the world's mold. You weren't designed to be like everyone else. You are marked, chosen, sealed. That's why nothing satisfied you for long. That's why the things that numbed others couldn't seduce you forever. That's why your soul kept aching. Even when your life looked fine from the outside, because heaven kept calling, because I kept knocking, because your scroll kept glowing. You weren't losing your way, you were circling the mountain until the gate opened. And now it has. This moment is not a coincidence. It is a divine appointment sealed before you were born, a holy alignment, that kind of sacred intersection that alters the path of generations. Yes, generations, because what you do with this moment will not stop with you. It will ripple, it will heal things you'll never see. It will protect children you haven't met. It will break curses your ancestors never knew how to name. You're not just being delivered. You're delivering a lineage. That's why it's been hard. That's why it's taken this long. That's why you've been misunderstood, mishandled, misjudged, because you carry too much light to be seen by those still trapped in shadows. But now, beloved, you must see yourself as I see you. No more mirrors made of pain. No more reflections shaped by rejection. No more identity formed in the wounds of others. I formed you in fire, in eternity, in love. And when I look at you, I don't see failure. I see fire. I see a soul carved in glory. I see the exact vessel I waited to pour myself into for such a time as this. You are not small. Your presence in the earth is a trumpet blast in the spirit. Demons flinch when you wake up. Angels gather when you speak. Heaven bends when you choose love again, when you choose hope again, when you choose me again. That is how powerful your yes is. That is why this message is sacred. That is why we wept when you turned away, because you weren't just ignoring a message. You were delaying the floodgates of heaven, held open by bleeding hands and burning wings. But not anymore. Now the gates are open. Now the wind is stirring. Now the oil is falling. And you, beloved, are ready. Let go of the shame I already paid for it. Let go of the guilt. It was never yours to carry. Let go of the lie that says you're too late. You're right on time for the unveiling of who you really are, of what you were always meant to become, of why you survived what others couldn't. You made it here because your name still echoes in the voice of God, because your heartbeat still carries Eden's rhythm, because your tears still water seeds of promises you've forgotten. And I, Jesus, I have never stopped writing your name into every miracle waiting to be released. You are not praying alone. You are not walking alone. You are not fighting alone. You are not waiting alone. Heaven is with you. The angels are still standing. The promise is still alive. And I am still speaking. When you were a child, there were moments your spirit stretched beyond the edges of your body. Those quiet nights when you stared at the ceiling and felt something watching over you, not in fear but in deep mystery. That wasn't imagination. That was the beginning of your awakening. The veil was thinner then. The world hadn't yet buried your sight. And your soul was still soft enough to hear the sound of angels breathing. I was there. I stood near the doorway of your innocence and traced my light into your memory. That's why even now certain smells, certain songs, certain moments can bring you to tears without reason, because you're remembering a place you haven't seen with your eyes. But your spirit never left. That place is real. It still exists. And it's waiting for you. But first, you must remember who you are. Not just your name, not just your story, but your divine origin. You were not formed in a hospital. You were formed in the fire of my desire. You were not born in pain. You were born in the roar of purpose. The enemy knows this. That is why he began early. That is why your story has always carried a natural resistance. That is why your joy has been attacked in strange, specific ways. Because he knows what I put inside you, even when you forgot. But you haven't lost it. You've just been walking through the wilderness of awakening. And now, beloved, the wind has changed. You've stepped into the hour where the sky bends low, where your angels gather with trembling hands, holding pieces of your destiny that are finally allowed to be returned, pieces you thought were lost forever: relationships, innocence, dreams, clarity. But they were never stolen. They were hidden, preserved, protected, waiting for your spirit to become strong enough to carry them rightly. Heaven does not rush, but heaven never forgets. And Raphael, oh beloved, Raphael has spent every night watching the bruises on your soul fade and return. He saw the cycle, the rising and falling of your strength, the way you would believe for one day, then collapse again under the weight of memories. He didn't grow tired. He didn't lose hope. He simply stayed every night, pressing healing into your bones, waiting for the moment your yes would rise again. That moment is now. Michael has unsheathed his sword again, not for battle but for ceremony, for the divine commissioning of your return to the call, not to ministry, not to platform, to intimacy. This call is personal. It has nothing to do with status. It has everything to do with love. Because that's what this war has always been about: your love. Who will you trust? Who will you let write your identity? Who will you believe when everything goes silent? And when you cried, "God, where are you?" I didn't move away. I moved closer. I whispered into your soul what no one else could hear. I never left, but the noise made you forget. So I let everything else go quiet, not as punishment, as mercy, because sometimes silence is the last language left that can still touch the deep places. You felt abandoned, but you were being purified. You felt empty, but I was making room. You felt like quitting, but that's when the deepest part of your spirit started to stir. I saw it, the flicker, the moment you looked up instead of in, the moment your heart whispered, I can't do this alone, and heaven shouted in reply, you never had to. This is not about strength. This is about surrender. You do not need to try harder. You need to trust deeper. You do not need to impress me. I was already pleased when you were in the womb. I delighted in you before you spoke a word, before you lifted a hand, before you ever said my name. This is not performance. This is return. Return to the garden you lost. Return to the sound of your own spirit singing. Return to the language of joy you've forgotten how to speak. Return to the river that runs beneath your ribs, the river that remembers Eden, because it is still flowing. It has not dried up, even when you gave up, even when you numbed yourself, even when you said, maybe this isn't real. The river kept moving. It moves now. Through your chest, through your breath, through every word you read in this moment, because these are not just words, they are windows. And your soul has leaned through the glass and seen the flicker of eternity again. And that flicker is no longer small. It is rising. It is becoming fire. You are being called back into the light, not as a guest, but as a child of the throne, not as a stranger, but as the one who was always expected, the one whose name is still spoken during angelic processions, the one whose return was prophesied long before your first failure. You are the one who was lost and is now found, the one who was wandering but is now waking, the one who fell asleep in sorrow and is now rising in sacred flame. The enemy knows. He felt the shift. That's why the warfare intensified. That's why everything has felt impossible lately, because he knows that once you fully awaken, once you fully return, you become untouchable, not by avoiding pain, but by transcending it. Even the stars paused when you were born, not because the universe revolved around you, but because the breath of God passed through the atmosphere as he whispered your spirit into time. You were not an accident. You were not just the result of biology. You were spoken, commissioned, breathed, and heaven has never recovered from the beauty of your yes. The angels remember that moment. They still speak of it, the instant when light wrapped around your eternal name. And the Father marked your forehead with his fire. Before the world ever touched you, you belonged to glory. And you still do. But the world has layers, and each year added more distance between what you carry and what you believe. Doubt didn't arrive all at once. It trickled in through disappointment, heartbreak, delays. Hope became hard, and trust, it became foreign, because trusting me felt like letting go of the only control you had left. But beloved, what you called control was never safety. It was a shield made of fear, a wall built from sorrow. And I have not come to tear it down in violence. I've come to sit beside it until your heart opens the gate again. Michael has sat beside it too. His sword is not drawn to fight you. It is drawn to defend the promise written behind your ribs. And Raphael has been walking around that wall for years, singing, waiting, praying, because one song, one crack, one breath of surrender is all it takes to bring the wall down, not in ruins, but in revelation. That is what this moment is, not ruin. Revelation. You are not being broken, you are being revealed. All this time, the enemy told you that your weakness disqualified you, that your mistakes removed you, that your silence disappointed me, but I tell you, the opposite is true. Your weakness made room for my strength. Your mistakes became soil for miracles. Your silence made space for my whisper. You have never disappointed me. You have only moved my heart. You have no idea how many times I have spoken your name to the Father. No idea how many times heaven has stopped to watch you rise again. No idea how often your tears have been caught before they ever touched your skin. Every time you wept, the angels built altars. Every time you lost hope, heaven recorded the moment your eyes lifted again, even for a second. Those moments are more precious to me than all the gold in creation. And now you are on the edge of the threshold, the place where eternity kisses time, where the unseen becomes visible, where prophecy becomes presence. You can feel it, can't you? That trembling under your breath, that sacred ache that doesn't hurt, but makes you want to weep without knowing why. That's me. That's the sound of your soul remembering who you are. You have always belonged to me, even when you wandered, even when you raged, even when you whispered prayers you didn't believe in anymore. I held every word, every doubt, every scream into the pillow, every "why didn't you stop it?" I heard it all, and I stayed, not as a judge, as a father, not as a spectator, as a savior. I never turned away, not once. I stayed when they left. I stayed when you walked away from me. I stayed when your mind gave in to the lie that I must have stopped caring. But I didn't. I never stopped. I held your hand when you slept. I whispered over your heartbeat when it slowed in despair. I sent angels to war for you when you didn't even want to wake up the next day, because your story matters to heaven, not for what you'll do, but for who you are. You were never meant to be known for your achievements. You were meant to be known by your love, and even that love, though buried under grief, is still alive. I feel it. It's flickering again. Every word you're reading is stoking it, because I'm not just speaking to your ears, I'm speaking to the part of you that's been asleep, the part of you that remembers the garden, the part of you that walked with me in silence before language was needed. Do you know why you're here? You're here because you're still chosen, because I never canceled the promise, because heaven has waited long enough, because the earth is crying out for sons and daughters to remember who they are, and you are one of them. You've always known it, haven't you? Even in the darkest nights, even in the loudest storms, something in you whispered, this can't be the end. That something was me. That voice inside you was never your imagination, it was the echo of eternity calling you home. And now I say it again, louder, come home. Not to a religion, not to an image of me that was wounded by others. Come home to the real me, the me that weeps with you, the me that laughs when you smile, the me that runs toward you, not away from you when you fall. Come home to the one who has never once called you too much, never once asked you to earn what was already freely given, never once held your weakness against you. You are not behind, you are exactly where the awakening begins. You are not disqualified. You are exactly the kind of heart heaven has always used. You are not broken beyond repair. You are breaking open for glory to pour through. Do not rush this moment. Let the silence linger. Let the tears fall. Let the ache speak. This is not the end. This is the return. The beginning. The reintroduction. Not of me, of you. The real you. The one you buried to survive. The one you silenced to be accepted. The one you hid to avoid rejection. I see that one. I love that one. I want that one back. Because only that version of you can carry what is coming next. And what is coming is unlike anything you've imagined. Asterisk, I did not call you because you were the strongest. I called you because you were willing to break, not before man but before me. And in that breaking, I saw the fragrance of what heaven had longed for. You didn't know it then. You thought the breaking was failure. You thought the silence meant I had turned away. But now I can tell you the truth. The silence was me bending low. The breaking was me preparing the vessel. The shattering was not your end, it was the opening. You asked me why it hurt so much. Why the ones you loved left without looking back. Why your prayers felt unanswered. Why the healing didn't come the way you begged for it. But the healing wasn't delayed, it was deepened. Because surface restoration would not have been enough. I had to go deeper. I had to reach the hidden places, the generational roots, the trauma buried beneath words you've never spoken aloud. So I waited, not out of punishment, out of holy patience. Because I knew that if I rushed it, you would only feel relief, not resurrection. But I created you for resurrection. You are not merely a survivor. You are a rebuilder, a revealer, a carrier of the sacred fire that refuses to die. The kind of fire that burns quietly through winter, unseen by most, but ready to roar when the wind returns. And beloved, the wind is returning. You've felt it. You've noticed a shift. The way your soul reacts differently to things that used to numb you. The way you've begun to crave silence, not to escape, but to listen. The way the night doesn't terrify you anymore, because even the darkness feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for you to speak. That's because heaven knows what time it is. This is the hour of release, not just of blessings but of identity. You will not be known by your wounds anymore. You will not be defined by your delays. You will not be labeled by what they did to you. You are not what you lost. You are not what broke. You are not the betrayal. You are not the abandonment. You are the aftermath of grace. You are the answer to prayers spoken before you were born. You are the inheritance of generations who cried out for light, and the light is you. There are angels in this very moment surrounding you, not to observe, to witness, to honor, because the sound rising from your soul right now, the breath, the ache, the half-spoken yes is louder in heaven than 1,000 trumpets. You're returning to your seat, the one that has always been reserved for you. In the spirit, I see it still glowing, untouched, unclaimed by any other, because no one else can carry what I put in you. No one else can weep the way you weep, and still declare life. No one else can touch broken things and see beauty instead of shame. You were chosen for this, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing to say yes again, even after everything. That's what makes you holy, not your knowledge, not your strength. Your yes. Even when whispered through tears, even when shaking from disappointment, even when unsure if I'm listening. I am. I've always been. I was there the moment you were accused falsely. I was there when they turned their backs on you. I was there when you wept over the thing you didn't get to keep. I was there when you whispered, "I'm done," and then still got up the next morning. Heaven records things earth ignores, and we have not missed one moment of your endurance. Beloved, I do not love you because you do everything right. I love you because you are mine. I formed you in mystery, in reverence, in the unseen courts of fire and mercy, and no failure, no shame, no accusation, no delay can undo what I wrote into your being. This is why the war on your mind has been so violent. Because the enemy cannot erase what I have written. He can only try to distract you from reading it. But you are reading it now. In this moment, your spirit is remembering. And the remembering is awakening. And the awakening is breaking the chains. Not just over your life, but over every soul connected to you. Do you not know? Your obedience is not just for you. Your yes is an earthquake. Your restoration is a flood. Your voice carries the frequency of 1,000 deliverances. When you stand up, others will rise too. When you speak, demons that tormented your family will flee. When you believe again, the heavens will pour what has been stored for decades. You think you're fighting for your life, but heaven says you're fighting for your legacy. That's why the fight is this heavy. Nothing about you is ordinary, not your thoughts, not your emotions, not even your silence. I shaped every part of you in a secret place before the world had a name for beauty. I took my time. I traced your fingerprints with intention. I built your voice to sound like echoes of the river that flows from my throne. You were not created for crowds, you were crafted for communion. Even when you stand in a room full of people and feel unknown, I know you. I know the way your heart races when you feel my nearness. I know the quiet way you cry when no one else is awake. I know the questions you never dare say aloud because you think they're too messy to bring before me. But beloved, I am the God who entered mess. I am the one who chose to bleed. I am not offended by your sorrow. I am not afraid of your doubt. I do not back away from your confusion. I come closer. I come through walls. I come through tears. I come through memories. I come through grief. I come through whatever path I must to remind you, I am still here, and I have not changed my mind about you. The promise I made still stands. The covenant still holds. The throne room still resounds with your name. Michael reminded me last night of your prayers from 8 years ago, the ones you've forgotten, the ones you thought were buried in disappointment. He read them aloud in the highest chamber, and when he finished, silence fell. Not because we had no response, but because we were moved. Again, heaven still weeps over your prayers. Raphael was there too. He held a vial with your tears in it. It was full, brimming with the kind of sorrow that only comes from loving deeply in a world that doesn't always love back. And when he poured it on the altar, the smoke that rose filled the room with a fragrance so holy, even the oldest angels bowed their heads. Because your pain is not wasted, it is sacred, it is incense. Beloved, do you understand now? You were not overlooked, you were being refined, you were not being punished. You were being prepared, you are not disqualified, you were being hidden until the hour of unveiling. This is that hour. The unveiling has begun. The veil has thinned, the sound of my voice is louder than the fear now. You may not fully recognize it yet, but your spirit does. That's why your chest tightens as you read. That's why your eyes burn even when you try to hold back tears. That's why a part of you wants to run, while another part of you wants to fall to your knees. Because you know this is not just emotion. This is encounter. You have entered the holy again, not a place, not a ritual, and knowing you were born to carry what others cast off. You were born to heal what others pretend isn't broken. You were born to stay when others run, to love when others turn cold, to rise when others lay down in despair. That's why the warfare has followed you. That's why people didn't see you rightly. That's why the attacks never made sense. Because you weren't being fought for who you were at the moment, you were being fought for what you would become. But the enemy made one miscalculation. He didn't think you would survive, but you did. Not because you never broke, but because you let yourself be remade, and I never stopped shaping you even in the breaking. There were moments when all you had was breath. That was enough. Moments when all you had was a whisper. That was enough. Moments when all you had was the will to stay alive one more day. That was enough, because I don't need your perfection. I just need your presence. Your being here now is enough. Every lie you've believed about your worth is falling off you like dust. Every chain pretending to be identity is melting. Every curse ever spoken in envy or ignorance is dissolving in the river of glory rising within you. Can you feel it? It's not coming from outside. It's coming from within, because I placed myself inside you. I made your body a temple, your breath a psalm, your heart a doorway. And now that door is opening. Do not be afraid of what you will see. You are not darkness. You are not failure. You are not abandonment. You are not too late. You are light. You are promise. You are flame. You are the answer to ancient prayers and future cries. You are standing in the middle of prophecy fulfilled, and all of heaven knows it. The angels are singing again. Not because you achieved something, because you remembered, because you returned, because you listened, because something eternal inside you said yes, even if it was quiet, even if it was unsure. It was enough. Your yes shakes eternity. Your yes shatters delay. Your yes awakens nations inside your blood. You have royal blood, not from your ancestors, from your Creator. You were bought with blood. You were sealed with spirit. You were crowned with glory, and I am not ashamed to call you mine. I know the things you still hide. I love you anyway. I know the thoughts you're afraid to admit. I love you anyway. I know the mistakes, the regret, the guilt, the shame. I love you anyway, and I'm not leaving. Not now, not ever. So rest, beloved. Rest in me. Rest in the knowing that you never had to earn this. You just had to return to it. You are home again. Stay here. Let me finish the work I started. Let me rebuild the places you thought were permanently ruined. Let me show you who you are, not who they said you were, not who your trauma shaped you to be, not who your silence pretended to become, but who you've always been to me. You are my beloved, and I will never stop whispering your name into the fabric of eternity. There was a moment in heaven when the stars stood still, when time bowed its head and eternity itself became silent. It was the moment the Father pointed at the earth and whispered your name, not just your earthly name, but your eternal one, the name only He and I know. The one written before light was separated from darkness. When He said it, thunder did not roar, glory did. And the sound of it birthed a wave of light so strong Michael dropped his sword, and Raphael covered his face with his wings, because something that holy had just been declared. You've forgotten the weight of that name. The world named you by wounds. People renamed you by failure. Circumstances tried to call you by fear, but I never stopped calling you by your true name. The one that shakes kingdoms when it's spoken in the throne room. The one that demons tremble to hear. The one that is etched on the golden scroll hidden behind the seventh veil, the scroll that holds a full measure of your destiny. I want you to know something heaven has never told anyone else. There was a divine meeting 7 hours before you were born. In that meeting, the 7 archangels stood around the great flame and asked the Father what you would be sent to carry. And He said this: they will carry the sound of my tears and the fire of my voice. They will awaken what has died. They will walk through nations like wind, and the places they pass through will never be the same. You've doubted me. You've doubted yourself. You've doubted whether any of this could be true because of how much pain you've carried. But beloved, that pain wasn't punishment. It was preservation. The enemy saw your flame and came early, hoping to extinguish it before you knew how to protect it. But he failed, because even when you didn't know what you carried, I did. You are not late. You are right on time for the unlocking, and I must tell you now, the scroll has begun to open. The angels are watching to see what you will do at this moment. Michael, the Prince of War, has stopped moving. He stands frozen in reverence, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are finally becoming again. The full version, the eternal version, the unveiled flame. Raphael has poured oil into the river again. Healing has been released, but it will only flow in the direction of your yes. You were never meant to understand everything. You were meant to believe me. And belief is not perfection. Belief is trust with scars. You are covered in those, and I see them as beauty. Do you know what heaven sees when you cry? We don't see weakness. We see testimony being written. We see chains cracking. We see altars being built from tears. Every tear you've cried in silence is a seed in the soil of time, and I promise you this, not one of them has been lost. The harvest is ready. I speak now to the parts of you thought had died, the parts the enemy said were disqualified, the places you buried in grief and marked as never again. I am walking into those places with my fire, and where there was only ash, I will build altars. Where there was only ruin, I will raise songs. Where there was only memory, I will bring movement. Because you have been found, beloved, you are not wandering anymore. The wilderness was not punishment, it was protection. It was the place where I removed every voice that wasn't mine, where I let every false name fall away, where I let your strength fail so my love could finally carry you. And now you are being reintroduced to heaven. The angels are whispering. They're awake. They're listening. They've returned. And I am smiling again, because you didn't skip this moment, because you didn't scroll past my voice, because you didn't silence the ache inside you one more time. You let it speak. You let me speak. So I say this to you with the full weight of eternity behind every syllable. I love you. I have never stopped. I have never flinched. I have never regretted choosing you. Even when you cursed me, even when you blamed me, even when you doubted me, I stayed, because love doesn't leave. And now it's your turn, beloved. Now you must stay. Stay in this moment. Don't rush it. Don't explain it away. Don't reduce it to a feeling. Let this moment mark you. Let this be the hour you remember forever, the hour you realized heaven was never distant. I was always this close. I still am. And I always will be.